Imagine two people earning the exact same salary, living in the exact same city with the exact same savings, and starting their financial lives on the exact same day. Jake makes $70,000 a year. So does Marcus. They're both 32. They both have $12,000 in savings, and they both live in Dallas. Jake looks at his savings and thinks, I've worked hard. It's time to upgrade my life. He finances a $38,000 SUV, carries a $7,000 credit card balance, and tells himself the monthly payments are manageable. Marcus does almost the opposite. He keeps his older car, pays off his credit card, builds cash reserves, and starts investing the money Jake is sending to lenders. They both think they made the smarter choice. They're both wrong, because the real story doesn't show up in month one. It shows up years later when one person's income starts building wealth while the other person's income keeps repairing yesterday's decisions. And the gap between them won't come from some secret investment. It comes from something much simpler. Who gets paid first? Jake wants the newest SUV because it feels like progress. The dealer quotes him $38,000 at 8% for 72 months. His payment is roughly $667 a month before insurance differences. Marcus keeps his 5-year-old sedan, worth about $16,000, and spends roughly $2,000 on maintenance during the first year. It isn't exciting. Nobody congratulates him in a parking lot. Jake also has $7,000 on a credit card at 24% APR. If he makes payments without adding new debt, that balance can cost him thousands in interest before it disappears. Marcus has zero revolving credit card debt. Now pause here. On day one, Jake looks richer. He has the newer vehicle, he has the nicer interior, he has the monthly payment that fits inside his budget. Marcus has an older car and a growing brokerage account. Feelings and math are two very different things. Jake's fixed monthly debt payments now include about $667 for the SUV and roughly $200 toward the credit card. That's $867 leaving his checking account before groceries, rent, utilities, insurance, fuel, or anything unexpected. Marcus has no auto loan and no credit card payment. Instead, he directs $700 a month toward his emergency fund and investments. Neither man got a raise. Neither received an inheritance. Neither discovered a magical stock. They simply gave their future dollars different jobs. And now watch what happens. After 1 year, Jake has made about $8,004 in SUV payments. At 8% over 72 months, he still owes roughly $33,000 on the vehicle. His credit card balance may be down, but if he's still carrying it, interest has already consumed hundreds of dollars without producing anything he owns. His SUV is worth roughly $30,000 to $32,000 depending on mileage and condition. On paper, that's a $32,000 asset. Sounds great until you subtract the roughly $33,000 loan balance. His vehicle equity is close to zero. Then add insurance. A financed newer SUV can easily cost $1,800 to $2,800 a year to insure, depending on driver, location, coverage, and vehicle. Fuel can add another $1,800 to $2,500. So the flashy $38,000 purchase isn't really a $38,000 decision. It's a payment, interest, insurance, fuel, depreciation, registration, maintenance, and opportunity cost decision. Marcus has a completely different picture. He spends about $2,000 maintaining his older sedan. He keeps several $1,000s in cash reserves, and he invests $700 a month. If that investment earns an average 7% annually, his contributions alone total $8,400 during year one, and the account begins earning returns on top of that. It doesn't look impressive on Instagram, but money doesn't care about Instagram. At the 3-year checkpoint, the difference becomes harder to ignore. Jake has made about $24,000 in SUV payments. He has also paid thousands in credit card interest and potentially several $1,000s more in insurance and fuel than Marcus. His SUV might now be worth around $23,000 to $26,000. On paper, that's still a $25,000 asset. Sounds great until you subtract everything else. He may still owe around $21,000 to $23,000. That means his actual vehicle equity could be only a few $1,000s after 3 years of payments. And remember what happened to the money he sent to the lender. It didn't compound for him, it compounded for the lender. Marcus has continued putting roughly $700 a month into investments. Over 3 years, that's $25,200 of contributions. At a hypothetical 7% annual return, the account could be around $28,000. Again, the difference isn't that Marcus is smarter. The difference is that Marcus stopped paying interest on consumption and started collecting returns on ownership. Now we reach year 5. This is where the story starts to flip. Jake has made approximately $40,000 in SUV payments over 5 years. He has paid interest, he has paid insurance, he has paid fuel, he has paid registration and taxes, he has absorbed depreciation, and he has spent money maintaining the vehicle. The SUV might now be worth around $18,000 to $21,000. His remaining loan balance could be around $8,000 to $10,000. So perhaps he has roughly $10,000 to $10,000 of vehicle equity. That sounds reasonable. But here's the number Jake rarely calculates. What if the roughly $667 monthly payment had been invested instead? At $667 a month for 5 years and a hypothetical 7% annual return, the account would be around $47,500. That's before considering the credit card payment, insurance differences, and other ownership costs. And that's the hidden mechanism behind the debt trap. Debt doesn't only cost you interest, it steals the future growth of the money you use to service it. Jake sees $667. Marcus sees $667 multiplied by time. And time is where the story gets dangerous. Because once debt payments become normal, people stop asking whether the purchase is affordable. They ask whether the payment is affordable. Those are completely different questions. A $38,000 SUV can become only $667 a month. A $7,000 credit card balance can become only $200 a month. A $4,000 vacation can become only $120 a month. And suddenly a person making $70,000 a year has committed tomorrow's income before tomorrow even arrives. That's how the trap works. Not with one giant mistake, with 5 or 6 small monthly commitments that quietly become permanent claims on your paycheck. Jake thinks his problem is that he doesn't earn enough. Marcus is starting to realize something else. The problem isn't always how much money comes in. Sometimes the problem is how much of tomorrow's money has already been promised to yesterday. By year 10, the difference between Jake and Marcus is no longer hiding inside a monthly budget. It's sitting on the balance sheet. Jake's SUV loan is long gone. The vehicle itself may now be worth only $9,000 to $12,000. A $38,000 vehicle that once felt like a symbol of success has turned into a depreciating asset that consumed tens of thousands of dollars in payments, interest, insurance, fuel, taxes, registration, and maintenance. On paper, Jake owns a car worth $10,000. Sounds great until you subtract everything else, because ownership isn't the same thing as wealth creation. During those same 10 years, Marcus kept investing roughly $700 a month. At a hypothetical 7% annual return, those contributions could grow to about $121,000. He didn't buy a luxury SUV, he bought time. And that's the number debt usually takes from you. Time. By year 20, the difference becomes enormous. If Marcus maintained that $700 monthly investment for 20 years at a hypothetical 7% annual return, the account could reach roughly $365,000. His total contributions would be $168,000. The remaining roughly $197,000 would come from investment growth. Jake never got that compounding machine started. And this is where people misunderstand debt. They think rich people escape debt because they never borrow. That isn't true. Wealthy people can use debt. They just don't treat all debt as equal. A loan used to buy an asset that produces income can behave very differently from a loan used to buy something that loses value every year. The key question isn't, is debt bad? Or, the better question is, what is this debt doing to my future cash flow? Because a $500 monthly payment attached to an income-producing asset is one situation. A $500 payment attached to something that depreciates is another. And now we get to the number almost everyone brags about. The flashy number is the purchase price. I bought a $50,000 car. I own a $400,000 house. I got approved for a $700,000 mortgage. But the purchase price isn't the complete financial story. The first hidden layer is interest. A $38,000 auto loan at 8% for 72 months produces roughly $6,000 of interest over the life of the loan if it runs to maturity. That's money paid for access to someone else's capital. The second hidden layer is depreciation. Vehicles commonly lose thousands of dollars in value during the first few years. A $38,000 vehicle falling to $20,000 represents an $18,000 decline in value before you even discuss fuel or insurance. The third hidden layer is insurance. If Jake pays even $600 more per year than Marcus for the newer vehicle, that's $6,000 over 10 years. The fourth hidden layer is maintenance and repairs. The newer vehicle may need less repair early on, but tires, brakes, scheduled service, registration, and eventual repairs still cost money. Over 10 years, a realistic range can easily reach several $1,000s. The fifth hidden layer is opportunity cost. This one is invisible. If $667 goes to a lender every month, that $667 can't simultaneously compound in an investment account. At 7%, $667 invested monthly for 20 years is roughly $347,000. That doesn't mean a guaranteed return. It means the opportunity cost of the payment can become larger than the original purchase decision. And the sixth hidden layer is lifestyle inflation. This one doesn't appear on a loan statement. The expensive car creates a new normal. Then the nicer apartment feels reasonable. Then the upgraded phone. Then the furniture. Then the vacation. The problem isn't one purchase. It's the standard of living that the purchase quietly establishes. But if I only showed you the downsides of debt, I'd be doing what every financial influencer does when they want a simple villain. Debt isn't automatically bad. Some debt can be useful. A mortgage on a reasonably priced home can provide stability and potentially build equity over time. A business loan can finance equipment that generates more cash than the financing costs. A student loan can sometimes increase lifetime earnings, although the numbers need to work. And a short-term loan can make sense when you have strong cash flow, low borrowing costs, and a specific reason for using it. There are even situations where Jake's choice could win. If his SUV is genuinely required to generate additional income, and that income exceeds the total financing and ownership cost by a wide margin, the math changes. If Marcus's older vehicle becomes unreliable and costs him $8,000 a year in repairs and lost work time, while Jake's newer vehicle costs $5,000, the cheaper-looking option isn't automatically cheaper. And if a person has a mortgage with a low fixed interest rate while inflation and income rise over time, keeping that debt can sometimes be more efficient than aggressively paying it off. The point isn't never borrow. The point is, know what you're borrowing for. Now let's add real-world data. The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances has repeatedly shown that households use several forms of debt, including mortgages, credit card balances, auto loans, and student loans. Debt isn't an unusual financial behavior reserved for a small group. It's part of the typical household balance sheet. And the IRS treats interest differently depending on the type of debt and its purpose. For example, certain qualified mortgage interest may receive tax treatment that consumer debt generally doesn't receive. The exact tax result depends on the person's circumstances. That's why wealthy households don't simply ask, "What's the interest rate?" They ask, "What's my after-tax cost? What am I buying? What cash flow does it create? And what alternative use exists for this money?" Now here's the practical escape plan. Step 1 is brutally simple. Stop looking at the payment. Look at the total cost. If a dealer says only $667 a month, multiply the payment by the number of months. Then add fees, interest, insurance, taxes, maintenance, fuel, and expected depreciation. Now you're looking at the actual decision. Step 2 is separate good debt from consumption debt. Write every debt down: balance, interest rate, monthly payment, remaining term. Then ask one question. Does this debt help me own something that produces value? Or am I paying for something that consumes value? Step 3 is redirect the payment after the debt disappears. This is where Marcus wins. If you eliminate a $500 monthly payment and immediately increase lifestyle spending by $500, nothing changes. But if you redirect that $500 into investments, you turn a former liability into an asset-building system. At 7% hypothetical growth, $500 invested monthly for 20 years becomes roughly $260,000. That's the escape route. not earning millions overnight, not finding the next hot stock, not becoming a financial genius, changing where the monthly cash flow goes. And now remember Jake. At 32, he thought the SUV was proof that he was doing well. At 42, he owns a 10-year-old vehicle worth perhaps $10,000 and has no investment account created from that original payment. Marcus thought his older car made him look behind. At 42, he could have more than $120,000 invested from the same basic cash flow decision. Both men earned $70,000. Both started with $12,000. Both lived in Dallas. The difference wasn't income, it was what happened after payday. Jake's money went first to lenders, then to lifestyle, and whatever remained went toward wealth. Marcus reversed the order. He protected his emergency reserves, invested first, and let lifestyle expand only after his financial base became stronger. That doesn't mean Marcus never spends. It means spending comes after the system is funded. And there's one lever that can dramatically change the outcome. Suppose Marcus increases his investment from $700 to $900 a month after his income rises. At a hypothetical 7% annual return over 20 years, $900 invested monthly could grow to roughly $469,000. That's about $104,000 more than the $700 per month scenario. $200, that's it. Not $2,000, not a six-figure salary, $200 a month, repeated for 20 years. That's why the most powerful financial decisions often look boring when you make them. They become impressive only after time does the work. Jake and Marcus both walked away from that first decision thinking they made the smart play. Jake believed the smart move was enjoying the money now because he could afford the payment. Marcus believed the smart move was delaying the upgrade because he wanted financial flexibility later. Neither one initially ran the full numbers. They looked at different parts of the same decision. Jake looked at the monthly payment. Marcus looked at the opportunity cost. And that is the real lesson. The real trap isn't debt or investing. The real trap is making a financial decision based on hype, headlines, or someone else's opinion instead of running the numbers for your own situation. Because debt doesn't become dangerous when you sign the contract. It becomes dangerous when enough of your future income has already been promised that you lose the ability to make new choices. And if you're wondering what happens when you combine smart borrowing, investing, and rising income into the same system, that's a completely different conversation. But before you make your next financial decision, ask yourself one question. Did you include everything? Because the answer that includes everything is the only answer that matters. If this video helped you see something you didn't know was there, subscribe to Money Mindset Lab and hit the notification bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day.